Grace Wells grabbed her baby sister and clamped both hands over the child's ears. Too late. Charity had already seen their stepmother's whip crack down on the horses, had already watched the wagon lurch forward without them, had already started screaming a name that would never answer back. "Mama! Mama, don't leave us! Mama!" But Rebecca Winters wasn't their mama, and she didn't look back. Not once. The wagon rounded the bend and vanished, taking with it every scrap of food, every blanket, every lie about family and belonging. 3 sisters, 1 empty trail, nothing else. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, stay with these children's journey to the very end. Subscribe, hit that like button, and comment your city so I can see how far their story reaches. "She's coming back." Hope's voice cracked like dry wood. "Right, Grace? She said wait here. She said—" "She lied." Grace pulled Charity tighter against her chest. The 7-year-old was still screaming, but the sound had gone hoarse now, more animal than human. Grace knew that sound. She'd made it herself 4 years ago, when their real mama stopped breathing. "Grace, she has to come back. She has to. All our things are in that wagon. Our clothes, our food. Margaret!" Margaret. Their mother's handmade doll. The only thing they had left of her. "She ain't coming back, Hope." Grace forced the words out flat and hard. "Look at the trail. Look at how fast she's moving. That woman's been planning this since Pa died." "Don't say that." "It's true, and you know it." Hope started crying, silent tears cutting tracks to the dust on her face. She was 10 years old, and still believed people meant what they said. Grace was 12. She'd stopped believing that a long time ago. "I want Mama." Charity's screams had faded to whimpers. "I want my real Mama. Why'd she leave us, Grace? Why don't nobody want us?" Grace's throat closed up. What was she supposed to say? That their stepmother had looked at them every day for 2 years like they were rats in her flour bin? That she'd been counting the days until Pa died so she could get rid of them? That some people just didn't have hearts, and there wasn't any explaining it. "Hush now," she said instead. "Save your strength. We got walking to do." "Walking where?" Hope wiped her face with a dirty sleeve. "We don't know where we are. We don't know anyone out here. We ain't got food or water or—" "I know what we ain't got." Grace set Charity down, but kept hold of her hand. "I also know standing here crying won't change nothing. There's ranches out here. Farms. Someone'll help us. What if they don't? What if they see 3 dirty orphans and slam the door in our faces? Then we try the next door, and the next, and the next after that." Grace started walking, pulling Charity along. "You coming or not?" Hope hesitated. Then she ran to catch up, falling into step beside them. They walked. The August sun sat on their shoulders like a hot iron. Grace felt sweat running down her back, soaking through her thin dress. Charity stumbled every few steps, her short legs struggling to keep pace. Hope had gone quiet, which worried Grace more than the crying. "Tell me a story," Charity said suddenly. "About Mama. The real one." Grace's chest ached. "Not now, sweetheart." "Please? I'm forgetting what she looked like. I don't want to forget." Lord help her. Grace took a breath. "Mama had hair like ours, long and brown with red in it when the sun hit right. She could braid it faster than you could blink. And she sang while she worked. Songs about rivers and mountains and coming home." "What else?" "She made the best cornbread in 3 counties. That's what Pa always said. And she never raised her voice, not once. Not even when we tracked mud through the house or let the chickens out by accident." "I remember the chickens," Hope said softly, "running everywhere. Mama laughing so hard she couldn't catch them. She had a good laugh. Grace's voice went thick. Like bells ringing. I wish I remembered it, Charity whispered. I try real hard, but I can't hear it in my head no more. Grace didn't answer. Couldn't answer. She just squeezed her sister's hand and kept walking. An hour passed, maybe 2. The sun crawled across the sky, and the trail stretched on forever. Charity's stumbles came more often now. Hope's breathing had gone ragged. Grace's own legs felt like they'd been filled with sand. Grace, Hope grabbed her arm. We need to stop. We need to rest. We can't. Sun's gonna set in a few hours. We need to find shelter before dark. Charity can't go no further. Look at her. Grace looked. Her baby sister's face had gone white beneath the dirt. Her eyes were glazed. She was still walking, but barely, like a puppet with half its strings cut. I'm okay, Charity mumbled. I can keep going. I ain't tired. She collapsed mid-sentence. Charity! Grace caught her before she hit the ground. Charity, wake up. Come on, sweetheart, wake up. Charity's eyes fluttered open. Sorry, my legs just stopped working. They won't listen to me no more. It's all right, I got you. Grace sank to her knees, cradling her sister. Her heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her teeth. We'll rest, just for a minute, just until you feel better. Hope sat down beside them, close enough that their shoulders touched. What are we going to do, Grace? We can't walk through the night. We ain't got no water. Charity needs food. Real food, not just walking and hoping. I know. So what do we do? Grace stared at the empty trail, at the mountains rising purple in the distance, at the endless grass waving in a wind that was starting to turn cold. She didn't have an answer. For the first time since their stepmother had told them to get off that wagon, Grace felt panic rising in her chest. Real panic. The kind that made your hands shake and your thoughts scatter like startled birds. They were going to die out here. 3 little girls nobody wanted, and they were going to die on this trail, and nobody would ever know. Nobody would ever care. They'd just be bones bleaching in the sun. 3 small skeletons holding hands, because that was all they had left to hold on to. I'm scared, Charity said. Grace blinked hard, shoved the panic down, locked it in a box in her chest, and slammed the lid shut. Me too, she admitted. But scared don't mean finished. Scared just means we gotta be brave anyway. How do you be brave when everything's so bad? You just decide to be. That's all it is. You decide and then you do it, even when your legs are shaking and your stomach's empty, and you want to give up so bad you can taste it. Charity thought about this. Mama was brave, wasn't she? The bravest person I ever knew. Then I'll be brave like her. Charity struggled to sit up. I can try walking again, if you help me. Grace's eyes burned. She pulled her sister into a fierce hug. That's my girl. That's my brave girl. A sound cut through the air. Hoofbeats, coming fast. Grace's blood went cold. She scrambled to her feet, pulling Charity up with her, shoving both sisters behind her back. Stay quiet, she hissed. Don't say nothing until I tell you. Who is it? Hope whispered. Don't know yet. The rider came over a rise in the trail. One man on a bay horse, moving at a canter. Behind him, Grace could see a wagon being pulled by 2 mules. He slowed when he spotted them, stopped about 30 feet away. Grace's hands curled into fists. The man was tall, even sitting down. Broad shoulders, dark hat, face weathered by years of sun and wind. 40-something maybe. He had blue-gray eyes that swept over the 3 of them without expression. Evening, he said. Deep voice. Careful. Grace said nothing. You girls lost? We're waiting for someone. That's so, It wasn't a question. His eyes moved to the trail behind them, reading the story in the dust. One set of wagon tracks heading away. 3 sets of small footprints heading this direction. Been waiting long? Long enough. He swung down from his horse, moved slow, like he was approaching a spooked animal. I'm Sam Brennan. Run a ranch about 8 miles south of here. Good for you. Something flickered across his face. Almost a smile. You got a name? What's it to you? Nothing, I reckon. Just making conversation. He pulled a canteen from his saddlebag, unscrewed the top, took a drink. Then he held it out toward them. You girls look thirsty. Grace didn't move. We ain't taking nothing from strangers. Smart. But this stranger's offering clean well water. No strings attached. He set the canteen on the ground and stepped back. There you go. Take it or leave it. Your choice. Charity tugged on Grace's dress. Grace, I'm so thirsty. Please. Grace stared at the canteen, at the man standing easy by his horse, at her sister's cracked lips and sunken eyes. If there's anything wrong with that water, she said, I swear to God I'll find a way to kill you. I believe you would, Sam Brennan nodded at the canteen. Nothing wrong with it. Drink. Grace moved forward slowly, snatched up the canteen, sniffed it, tasted it, waited a moment to see if anything happened. Then she handed it to Charity. Slow sips. Don't make yourself sick. Charity drank like she'd never tasted water before. Hope went next. Grace took the last turn, and the cool liquid sliding down her throat felt like mercy. Thank you, You want to tell me what really happened here? Why 3 young'uns are standing alone on a trail 10 miles from the nearest town? No. Fair enough. He looked at the sky, at the clouds building over the mountains. Storm's coming in tonight. Temperature's going to drop hard after sunset. This ain't a place for children to be after dark. We'll manage. Will you? His voice stayed level, but something sharpened in his eyes. With no food, no water, no shelter? With a little one who can barely stand? He shook his head. I got eyes, miss. I can see you're running on nothing but stubborn. That'll only carry you so far. What do you want from us? Nothing. Nobody offers nothing for nothing. Maybe I ain't nobody then. Sam gathered his horse's reins. Here's what I'm offering. Hot food, clean beds, a roof that don't leak. My ranch is 8 miles south. My housekeeper Martha's there. She's mean with a spatula, but gentle with children. You stay the night, get your strength back, and we figure out what comes next in the morning. Why would you do that? Because I rode this trail and found 3 little girls who somebody threw away like garbage. His jaw tightened. Because my wife, God rest her, would come back from the grave and haunt me if I kept riding. Grace felt hope pressing close against her back, felt Charity trembling. Every instinct screamed caution. But what choice did they have? Stay here and freeze? Walk through the night and collapse? At least at this man's ranch, there'd be food, there'd be warmth, there'd be a chance. If you try anything, she said slowly, anything at all. You'll kill me, yes, you mentioned. Sam's mouth twitched. I believe you, miss. Now get in the wagon before that storm hits. There's blankets in the back and bread in the sack. Eat slow. Grace helped Charity into the wagon first, then Hope. She climbed in last, positioning herself between her sisters and the front, where Sam would be driving. The wagon lurched forward. Charity found the bread and tore into it. Hope wrapped herself in a blanket and closed her eyes. Grace sat rigid, watching Sam's back, watching the trail, watching everything. You can rest, Sam called over his shoulder. Ain't nobody gonna hurt you. I don't rest. I noticed. A pause. What's your name? You never said. Grace. Grace Wells. My sisters are Hope and Charity. Faith, hope, and charity, he almost laughed. Your mama had a sense of humor. Our mama had a lot of things. Most of them got buried with her. Sam went quiet after that. The wagon rolled south as the sun sank lower. The storm clouds built into towers of purple and black. Grace watched them, calculating. Rain tonight. Maybe hail. If they'd stayed on that trail... She didn't finish the thought. Grace, Hope's voice was sleepy. I think maybe it's okay. I think maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe. He gave us water. He gave us food. He didn't have to do that. People don't do things without reasons. Maybe his reason is just being decent. Grace wanted to believe that. Wanted it so bad, her chest hurt. But believing in people was how you got your heart broken. Believing in people was how you ended up on a trail in the middle of nowhere, while someone who was supposed to protect you drove away without looking back. We'll see, she said. We'll see. The ranch appeared as the last light faded from the sky. A cluster of buildings in a valley where a creek caught the dying sun and turned it to gold. The main house was 2 stories with a wide porch. Smoke rose from the chimney. Lamplight glowed in the windows. It looked like something from a dream. The kind of dream Grace had stopped letting herself have. Sam pulled the wagon to a stop in front of the house. Before he could climb down, the door opened and a woman appeared. Gray-streaked brown hair, flour-dusted apron, kind eyes that went sharp when she saw the children in the wagon. Samuel Brennan, her voice carried across the yard. What in the Lord's name? Found them on the Miller Trail, abandoned. Abandoned? The woman, Martha, Grace remembered, came down the porch steps. By who? Stepmother, from what I can gather. They ain't told me the whole story yet. Martha reached the wagon and looked at the 3 sisters. Her face did something complicated. Anger and pity and determination, all mixed together. You poor lambs, she said softly. Look at you, skin and bones and scared half to death. She held out her hand. Come on now, let's get you inside. I've got soup on the stove and beds already made up. Charity took her hand without hesitation. Hope followed. Grace climbed down last, still watching, still waiting for the trap to spring. It didn't. The kitchen was warm and smelled like heaven. Beef soup and fresh bread and something sweet baking in the oven. Martha sat them at a big wooden table and set bowls in front of them so fast Grace's head spun. Eat, Martha ordered. Small bites. Your stomachs ain't used to much, I reckon. Grace made herself take small bites, even though her body screamed for more. She watched Charity and Hope do the same. She watched Sam come in and pour himself coffee. She watched Martha bustle around the kitchen like feeding starving children was something she did every day. How long since you ate proper? Martha asked. Yesterday morning, Grace admitted. Thin soup, not much of it. Martha muttered something that sounded like cursing, but might have been prayer. That woman, that evil, heartless woman, leaving children to starve on the trail. If I ever meet her, I'll... She stopped herself. Never mind. Ain't Christian to speak ill, even of those who deserve it. She didn't want us, Charity said around a mouthful of bread. She said we wasn't her blood, so we wasn't her problem. The kitchen went quiet. Sam set down his coffee cup. She said that to you? Those exact words? Yes, sir. Right before she told us to get off the wagon and wait by the big rock. She said she'd come back for us, but Grace said she was lying. Grace was right. Sam's voice had gone hard in a way Grace hadn't heard before. Women like that don't come back. Women like that don't deserve to. Sam, Martha's tone carried a warning. Not in front of the children. They already know the truth. Probably knew it before I did. He looked at Grace. Your pa, how'd he die? Logging accident, 3 months ago. Tree fell wrong. And your real mama? Fever, 4 years back. Any other family? Grandparents, aunts, uncles? No, sir. Nobody. It's just us 3 now. Sam and Martha exchanged a look. Something passed between them that Grace couldn't read. Something that made her stomach tighten with hope and fear all tangled together. Well, Martha said briskly, tonight you're safe. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest. Sam, show them to the guest room. I'll bring up warm water for washing. The guest room had 2 beds with clean sheets and thick quilts, real pillows. A window with glass that wasn't cracked. Grace stood in the doorway, afraid to step inside, afraid this would all disappear if she moved too fast. It's real, Sam said quietly, reading her face. It ain't going nowhere. Neither are you. Not tonight, anyway. What about tomorrow? Tomorrow we talk, make a plan, figure out what's best for you and your sisters. Best according to who? According to you. He met her eyes. I ain't going to decide nothing without asking you first. That's a promise. People make a lot of promises. I know, and most of them are worth about as much as a Confederate dollar. He didn't look away. But I'm not most people. You'll figure that out, or you won't. Either way, you're safe tonight. That's all I can give you right now. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Grace stood there for a long moment. Then she turned to find her sisters already climbing into one of the beds, too tired to wait for washing, or nightgowns, or any of the normal bedtime things. Come on, Grace. Hope patted the space between them. There's room. Grace kicked off her worn shoes and crawled into the bed. Charity immediately curled against her left side. Hope pressed close on her right. The quilt settled over them like a blessing. Grace? Charity's voice was already thick with sleep. Yeah? I think maybe we're going to be okay. Grace stared at the ceiling, at the shadows thrown by the lamp Martha had left burning low, at this room that was nicer than anywhere they'd slept since their mother died. Maybe, she whispered. Maybe we are. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain hammered against the windows. Thunder rolled across the valley. But inside this room, in this bed, 3 sisters held on to each other and slept without nightmares for the first time in months. They didn't know yet that this was just the beginning, that 6 more broken children would find their way to this ranch, that Sam Brennan would become something none of them expected, that the word family would take on a meaning they'd never imagined. All they knew was that someone had stopped when he didn't have to. Someone had seen 3 girls the world had thrown away and decided they were worth saving. For now, that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. Morning came too fast. Grace woke with her heart pounding, her body rigid, certain something was wrong. Then she remembered. The ranch. The storm. The man who'd stopped. Charity was still asleep, curled into a ball with her thumb near her mouth. Hope lay on her other side, breathing slow and deep. The rain had stopped. Sunlight crept through the window, painting golden stripes across the quilt. Grace sat up slowly, careful not to wake her sisters. Her stomach growled. Her muscles ached from yesterday's walking. But she was alive. They were all alive. A knock on the door made her jump. "You girls decent?" Martha's voice. "Yes, ma'am." The door opened. Martha carried a stack of folded clothes and a pitcher of warm water. "Brought you some things to wear. Nothing fancy, but clean. Breakfast's ready when you are." "Thank you, ma'am." Martha set the clothes on the trunk by the window. She looked at the two sleeping girls, then back at Grace. "You're the one who keeps watch, ain't you? The one who don't let herself rest proper?" Grace didn't answer. "Thought so." Martha's voice softened. "You can put that burden down here, child. Ain't nobody gonna hurt you under this roof." "People keep saying that." "And you keep not believing it. I understand. Trust ain't something you give easy when it's been broken before." Martha moved toward the door. "But Sam Brennan's a good man. Lost his wife 3 years back. Ain't been the same since. You girls showing up might be the first real thing he's cared about since Eleanor died." She left before Grace could respond. Hope stirred. "Who was that?" "Martha. Brought us clean clothes." "Clean clothes?" Hope sat up, suddenly awake. "Real clean clothes?" "Seems like." They woke Charity and took turns washing with the warm water. The clothes Martha had brought were simple cotton dresses, faded but soft, better than anything they'd worn in months. Grace helped Charity with her buttons and braided Hope's hair, trying to make them look presentable. "Do I look okay?" Charity asked. "You look beautiful." "Really?" "Really." Grace smoothed down her sister's hair. "Now remember, best manners. Say please and thank you. Don't ask for seconds even if you're still hungry." "Why not?" "Because we're guests here, and guests don't take advantage." "But Martha said we could eat as much as we wanted." "People say lots of things they don't mean." Hope touched Grace's arm. "Maybe she did mean it, though. Maybe this place is different." "Maybe." Grace straightened her own dress. "Let's go find out." The kitchen smelled even better than last night. Bacon sizzled in a pan, eggs bubbled in another. Fresh biscuits sat golden brown in a basket. Martha stood at the stove, commanding it all like a general commanding troops. Sam was already at the table, coffee cup in hand. He stood when they entered. "Morning, girls. Sleep all right?" "Yes, sir." Grace guided her sisters to the chairs he indicated. "Thank you for letting us stay." "Thank Martha. She's the one who made up the beds and cooked the food." Sam sat back down. "I just provide the roof." "And the money," Martha said dryly. "And the house, and the ranch that pays for everything." Details. Breakfast was served. Grace made herself eat slowly, even though her body screamed for more. She watched Charity and Hope do the same, their eyes wide at the abundance spread before them. When had they last seen this much food at one table? "I've been thinking," Sam said after they'd eaten in silence for a few minutes, "about what to do with you three." Grace's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Here it came. The explanation. The apology. The arrangements to send them somewhere else. "There's an orphanage in Denver," Sam continued, "run by the Methodist Church. They got a decent reputation from what I hear." "No." Grace's voice came out hard. "No orphanages." "You ain't even heard what I—" "Don't need to. We ain't going to no orphanage. They separate siblings, send kids to workhouses, hire them out as labor to anyone who'll pay." Grace set her fork down. "We heard the stories, Mr. Brennan. We know what happens to orphans nobody wants." "Not all orphanages are like that." "Maybe not. But we ain't gambling our lives on maybe." Sam studied her for a long moment. "All right. What do you want then?" "We want to stay together. That's all that matters." "And if staying together means living somewhere hard, working for your keep, going without sometimes?" "We already been doing that. At least we'd be doing it together." Charity tugged on Grace's sleeve. "Grace, I don't want to go to an orphanage. I want to stay here. Martha's nice, and the beds are soft. And there's bacon. Hush, Charity. But I do want to stay. Don't you? Grace didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because yes, she wanted to stay. Wanted it so bad her chest hurt. But wanting things was dangerous. Wanting things gave them power over you. There's another option, Sam said quietly. You stay here. The words hung in the air like smoke. Hope's head came up. Here? At your ranch? I got room. Martha could use help around the house. And this place has been too quiet since Eleanor passed. Sam wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. I ain't saying it'd be perfect. Ranching's hard work. Winters are rough. But you'd have food and shelter and schooling when the term starts. And nobody'd separate you. Ever. Why? Grace demanded. Why would you do that for 3 strangers? Because you ain't strangers. You're children. Children somebody threw away like they was nothing. Sam's jaw tightened. I can't fix all the wrongs in this world, Grace. But I can fix this one. If you'll let me. What do you get out of it? Maybe I get to stop feeling like a ghost in my own house. Maybe I get to honor Eleanor's memory by doing something she would have done without thinking twice. He met Grace's eyes. Maybe I just need a reason to keep going. You girls could be that reason. Martha had stopped pretending to work at the stove. She stood with her hands folded, watching the conversation like it was a church service. He needs you, she said bluntly, as much as you need him. Maybe more. This house has been dying since Eleanor left it. You 3 could bring it back to life. Grace looked at Hope, at Charity, at the food on the table and the clothes on their backs, and the roof that had sheltered them from the storm. If we stay, she said slowly, we work. We earn our keep. We ain't Charity. Fair enough. And we don't call you Pa. You ain't our Pa. I ain't asking to be. Sam's fine. And if it don't work out, if you decide you don't want us no more, you tell us straight. You don't just dump us somewhere. You give us warning and help us find another place. Grace, Sam leaned forward. I ain't gonna change my mind. But if it makes you feel better, yes, I promise. If things don't work, I'll tell you straight and help you find somewhere good. Deal? Grace hesitated. Every instinct screamed caution. But what choice did they have? The orphanage? The streets? Going back to that trail and hoping someone else might stop? Deal, she said. Charity launched herself across the table to hug Sam. He caught her awkwardly, surprise flickering across his face. Then, something else. Something that looked almost like tears. Thank you, Mr. Sam. Charity's voice was muffled against his chest. Thank you for not leaving us on the trail. You're welcome, little one. His voice had gone rough. You're welcome. Hope was crying quietly. Grace blinked hard and looked away, not trusting herself to speak. Martha cleared her throat. Well then, now that's settled. We got work to do. Sam, you need to ride into town and talk to Sheriff Dunn about this. Make sure nobody comes looking for these girls with bad intentions. I'll take care of getting them settled proper. Yes, ma'am. Sam gently detached Charity and stood. I'll be back before supper. You girls mind Martha here? Yes, sir, they chorused. After Sam left, Martha set them to work. Not hard labor, just simple tasks. Folding laundry, sweeping floors, helping prepare the midday meal. Grace noticed how Martha explained everything clearly, praised their efforts, corrected their mistakes without harshness. You've done this before, Grace said. Taken care of children. Had 3 of my own, once upon a time. Martha's hands kept moving, kneading bread dough. 2 boys and a girl. Lost them all to the cholera outbreak of '73. My husband, too. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. Pain fades, eventually. Not all the way, but enough that you can breathe again. Martha looked up. You know about that, I reckon? About pain that takes your breath away? Yes, ma'am. Thought so. You got old eyes, Grace Wells. Eyes that have seen too much for 12 years. Couldn't help what I saw. No, but you can help what you do with it. Martha went back to her kneading. Some people let pain make them hard, close themselves off, hurt others before they can be hurt. Others let it make them soft, open their hearts wider, help others because they know how bad hurting feels. Which kind are you? Trying to be the second kind. Don't always succeed. Martha's mouth curved. What about you? Which kind you gonna be? Grace thought about it, about her stepmother's cold face, about Sam's steady hands lifting Charity from the wagon, about all the ways people could choose to treat each other, for good or ill. I don't know yet, she admitted, but I want to be the second kind. I want to help people, especially kids like us who ain't got nobody. That's a good wanting. Hold on to it. The afternoon passed in a blur of small tasks and new discoveries. Grace learned where everything in the kitchen was kept. Hope found the chicken coop and appointed herself egg collector. Charity discovered a cat living in the barn and spent an hour trying to coax it close enough to pet. She's warming up, Hope reported at supper. The cat, I mean. Charity almost got to touch her nose. That cat don't let nobody touch her, Sam said. She's half feral. Been living wild since Eleanor... He stopped. Since your wife died? Grace asked quietly. Yeah. Cat was hers. Name's Patches. After Eleanor passed, Patches wouldn't let anyone near her. Just hid in the barn and hissed at anyone who came close. Maybe she was grieving, Charity said. Maybe she was sad, like you were. Sam looked at her for a long moment. Maybe she was, at that. I'll make friends with her, you'll see. I'm good at making friends with sad things. I don't doubt it, little one. After supper, Sam built a fire in the big stone fireplace, and they gathered around it. The flames cast dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the evening had turned cool, but inside, everything was warm and golden. Tell us about your wife, Hope said suddenly, if it ain't too painful. Sam was quiet for a moment. Grace almost told Hope to hush, that they shouldn't pry. But then Sam started talking. Eleanor was the strongest person I ever knew. Came out west with nothing but a Bible and a mule. Built this ranch alongside me, board by board, fence by fence. She could outwork any man and outpray any preacher. His voice went soft. She wanted children more than anything. We tried for years. Never happened. She used to say maybe God had other plans. She just couldn't figure out what they were. Maybe this was his plan, Charity said. Maybe he was saving you for us. Sam's throat worked. He didn't answer for a long moment. Maybe he was, he finally said. Maybe he was at that. Grace watched the firelight play across his face. She saw grief there, still fresh even after 3 years. But she also saw something else, something that looked like hope. Maybe they could heal each other. Maybe that was how broken things became whole again, not by fixing themselves alone, but by finding other broken things and fitting the pieces together. Sam, Grace's voice came out rough. Thank you for taking us in, for giving us a chance. You're welcome, Grace. I know I ain't easy. I know I ask too many questions and trust too slow and expect the worst from people. You got reasons for that. I do, but I'm gonna try to be better. Try to believe this is real. She swallowed hard. You've been kind to us, kinder than anyone since Mama died. I want you to know I see that, even if I don't always show it. Sam nodded slowly. That's all I ask, Grace. That you try. The rest will come with time." They sat together until the fire burned low, until Charity fell asleep in her chair and Hope's eyes started drooping. Martha had retired to her room an hour ago. It was just the four of them now, wrapped in silence and firelight. "Bedtime," Sam said quietly. "Big day tomorrow. Gonna show you around the ranch proper. Introduce you to the hands." "There are other people here?" Hope asked. "3 ranch hands, Harry, Miguel, and old Walt. Good men, all of them. They'll look after you." Grace carried Charity to bed, while Hope walked on unsteady legs beside them. They settled into the same bed as last night, too used to each other's presence to sleep apart. "Grace," Hope whispered in the darkness. "Yeah? I think I'm happy. Is that wrong? After everything that happened, is it wrong to be happy?" "No." Grace pulled the quilt higher. "Mama would want us to be happy. She'd want us to find a good place and let ourselves belong to it. Do you think this is that place?" Grace thought about the kitchen full of food, the clean clothes, the soft beds, the man who'd stopped on a trail when he didn't have to. "I think it might be," she said. "I think maybe it really might be." Hope sighed contentedly and burrowed deeper into the pillows. Within minutes, her breathing had evened out into sleep. Grace lay awake a while longer, listening to the night sounds. Wind in the trees, an owl calling somewhere, the creak of the old house settling around them. For the first time in months, the sounds didn't feel threatening. They felt like home. 2 weeks passed, then 3. The days fell into a rhythm. Morning chores, breakfast, lessons with Martha, who turned out to be surprisingly good at teaching letters and numbers. Afternoons exploring the ranch, learning the names of horses and cattle, watching the hands work. Evenings by the fire, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting together in comfortable silence. Grace learned things: how to milk a cow, how to collect eggs without getting pecked, how to mend a fence and saddle a horse, and read the weather by the clouds. She also learned about Sam, about how he'd come west as a young man with nothing but dreams and determination, about how he'd met Eleanor at a church social and known within 5 minutes that he'd marry her, about how they'd built this ranch together year by year through droughts and blizzards and everything in between. "He's different when he talks about her," Hope observed one evening when Sam had gone to check on a sick calf. "Softer, like he becomes someone else." "He loved her," Grace said simply. "Real love, not the pretend kind." "You think we'll ever have that? Someone who loves us like that?" "I don't know. But I think we might find out. Here, I mean. I think Sam's teaching us what love's supposed to look like." Charity came running in, her face flushed with excitement. "Patches let me pet her. She came right up and rubbed against my leg, and I scratched behind her ears, and she purred." "The cat?" Martha emerged from the kitchen. "That mangy old thing ain't let nobody touch her in 3 years." "She let me. We're friends now." She told me her real name is Princess Whiskers, but Patches is okay too. Martha and Grace exchanged looks over Charity's head. Something was changing in this house. Something was healing. That night, after the girls were in bed, Grace heard voices from the kitchen. She crept to the top of the stairs, not quite eavesdropping, just listening. "They're good girls, Sam," Martha's voice. "All 3 of them. But Grace especially. That child's been carrying weight no 12-year-old should carry." "I know. She watches you all the time, studying, waiting for you to let her down." "I know that too." "You gonna let her down?" A long pause. "Not if I can help it. Those girls," Sam's voice caught. "Those girls are the first thing I've cared about since Eleanor died. They made me remember why I built this place, what it was supposed to be for. For family. for family. Eleanor and I, we wanted to fill these rooms with children, with noise and laughter and all the chaos that comes with raising young'uns. Another pause. We never got the chance, but maybe God's giving you a second chance. Maybe He is. Grace crept back to bed, her heart pounding. She slipped under the covers between her sleeping sisters and stared at the ceiling. A second chance. For all of them. She was starting to believe it might actually be real. The next morning, Sam made an announcement at breakfast. "I've been talking to Sheriff Dunn. Nobody's come looking for you. Your stepmother must have crossed into Wyoming by now, heading for Montana." He set down his coffee cup. "I want to make things official, legal. File for guardianship so nobody can ever take you away." Hope's fork clattered against her plate. "You mean, adopt us?" "If you want, it's your choice. I won't force nothing." "We'd be your daughters?" Charity's eyes went huge. "For real? Forever?" "For real. Forever." Sam looked at Grace. "What do you think?" Grace thought about all the promises that had been broken, all the adults who'd failed them, all the reasons she had not to trust this man, not to believe this could last. Then she thought about the past 3 weeks, the food and warmth and safety, the patient teaching and the quiet kindness. The way Sam looked at them sometimes, like they were precious, like they mattered. "Yes," she said. "We want that. All of us." Charity launched herself at Sam again. This time, he was ready. He caught her and swung her around while she shrieked with joy. "I get a papa!" she yelled. "A real papa who wants us!" Hope was crying. Grace was crying too, though she'd never admit it. All right. Sam set Charity down, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "Don't go getting too excited. There's paperwork to file, and a judge to see, and Lord knows how long that'll take. But we'll do it. We'll make this family official." Family. The word wrapped around Grace's heart like a warm blanket. She'd thought she'd lost her family forever when Mama died. Thought the word itself had been buried with her father. But here it was again, offered freely by a man who owed them nothing. Maybe that was the secret. Maybe family wasn't just the people you were born to. Maybe it was the people who chose you, who saw you standing on a dusty trail and decided you were worth stopping for. Maybe that kind of family was the strongest kind of all. "Thank you," Grace whispered. "Sam, thank you." He put his hand on her shoulder. "Thank you, Grace, for trusting me. I know it wasn't easy." "It wasn't, but I'm glad I did." "Me too, child. Me too." Outside, the Colorado sun rose over the mountains, painting the world in gold. Inside, 3 sisters who'd been thrown away sat at a table with the man who'd found them, eating breakfast and making plans for the future. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was theirs, and that made it better than perfect. That made it home. The news reached Brennan Creek Ranch on a cold October morning, 6 weeks after Sam had filed the adoption papers. Sheriff Dunn rode up just as they were finishing breakfast. Grace saw his face through the window and knew immediately something was wrong. Lawmen didn't ride out this far with good news. "Sam," Sheriff Dunn removed his hat as he entered the kitchen. "We need to talk, private-like. Anything you got to say, you can say in front of my girls." Sheriff Dunn hesitated. His eyes moved to Grace, then to Hope and Charity, then back to Sam. "All right, but you ain't gonna like it." "Spit it out, Robert." "Got a telegram this morning from the Territorial Child Welfare Office. Sheriff Dunn pulled a folded paper from his pocket. Woman named Rebecca Winters filed a claim in Montana. Says 3 children were stolen from her custody. Says she wants them back. The kitchen went silent. Grace felt the blood drain from her face. Beside her, Hope made a small sound like a wounded animal. Charity didn't understand, but she sensed the fear and pressed closer to Grace's side. "That's a lie." Sam's voice came out flat and hard. "That woman abandoned these children on a trail in the middle of nowhere. Left them to die." "I know what you told me, Sam, and I believe you. But the law's the law. She's their legal stepmother. Filed the claim proper. Got paperwork saying she's their guardian." Paperwork. Sam spat the word like poison. She dumped them like garbage, and now she wants them back? Why? What's she really after? Money, most likely. Sheriff Dunn folded the telegram carefully. "Word is she heard you're looking to adopt. Heard you got a profitable ranch. Figures she can squeeze something out of you." "She ain't getting nothing." "That ain't your choice to make. Judge Henderson scheduled a hearing for November 15th. You're required to bring the children and present your case." "And if we don't go?" "Then she wins by default, and the territorial marshals come take the girls by force." Sheriff Dunn's voice softened. "I'm sorry, Sam. I know this ain't right. But we gotta do this legal. It's the only way to make sure she can't never come back." Sam stood so abruptly, his chair scraped against the floor. He walked to the window, his back rigid, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Grace watched him, watched the anger rolling off him in waves. And underneath the anger, she saw fear. Real fear. The same fear that was clawing at her own chest. "She can't have us." Grace's voice came out stronger than she felt. "We won't go with her, no matter what any judge says." "Grace," Sheriff Dunn started. "No, you listen to me." Grace stood up, her whole body shaking. "That woman told us to get off the wagon. She told us to wait by a rock. She drove away without looking back. She left us to starve, or freeze, or get eaten by wolves, or whatever else happens to children nobody wants." "I understand that." "Do you? Do you understand what it's like to watch the only family you got disappear down a road? To stand there for hours, hoping they'll come back, knowing they won't. To walk until your legs give out and your baby sister collapses because she ain't had food or water in a day and a half?" "Grace." Sam's voice was quiet. He turned from the window. "That's enough." "It ain't enough. It ain't never gonna be enough." Tears were streaming down Grace's face now, but she didn't care. She threw us away. And now she wants us back? For money? To sell us to whoever pays the most? We don't know that's what she's planning. I know. I lived with that woman for 2 years. I know exactly what she is. Grace wiped her face with her sleeve. She don't want us. She never wanted us. She just wants whatever she can get from Sam for pretending she does. Charity started crying. Hope pulled her close, her own face pale as death. Sam crossed the room in 3 long strides. He knelt in front of Grace, taking her hands in his. "Listen to me," he said. "Listen good. That woman ain't taking you nowhere. I don't care what papers she's got. I don't care what any judge says. You're my daughters now, and I protect what's mine." "But the law—" "The law's going to see the truth. We got witnesses. We got Martha and the hands, who saw the state you were in when you arrived. We got Dr. Patterson, who examined you and documented the malnutrition and dehydration." Sam's grip tightened. "We got a case, Grace, a strong one, and we're going to fight." "What if we lose?" "We won't." "But what if we do?" Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled all three girls into his arms, holding them tight against his chest. "If we lose," he said quietly, "then I'll find another way. I'll appeal. I'll take it to the territorial governor. I'll ride to Washington and bang on the president's door if I have to. But I will not let that woman take you. Not today. Not ever. Do you understand me?" Charity nodded against his shoulder. Hope made a sound that might have been agreement. Grace pulled back and looked into his eyes, searching, testing, looking for the lie that experience had taught her was always there. She didn't find one. "I believe you," she whispered. "God help me, I actually believe you." "Then trust me. Can you do that? Just for a little while longer?" "I'll try." "That's my girl." Sam released them and stood. "Robert, what do we need to do?" "Hire a lawyer. A good one. Document everything these girls can remember about the abandonment. Get statements from anyone who saw them before and after." Sheriff Dunn put his hat back on. "And pray, Sam. Pray hard. Because judges don't always do what's right. They do what's legal. And legal ain't always the same thing." After the sheriff left, the house felt different, heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Martha took the girls to the kitchen and made them drink warm milk with honey. "For the shock," she said, "and because I don't know what else to do." Sam saddled his horse and rode to town. "Going to find a lawyer," he called over his shoulder. "Don't wait supper." Grace sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around her mug, staring at nothing. "She's going to take us back." Hope's voice was flat, dead. "She's going to take us back and sell us to some factory or workhouse, and we'll never see Sam again." "Hush that talk!" Martha's voice was sharp. "Sam said he'd fight for you. He meant it." "People say lots of things they don't mean." "Sam Brennan ain't people. That man's word is iron." Martha sat down across from them. "I've known him 15 years, watched him build this ranch from nothing, watched him love his wife and bury her and nearly destroy himself with grief. And I'm watching him now, loving you girls like you as his own blood." "Love don't always win," Grace said quietly. "No, it don't." Martha reached across the table and took her hand. "But it fights harder than anything else in this world. And sometimes that's enough." That night, Grace couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her sister's breathing. They'd fallen asleep eventually, exhausted from crying and fear. But Grace's mind wouldn't stop spinning. Rebecca Winters, coming for them, after everything. She remembered the woman's face, sharp and cold, like something carved from ice. She remembered the flat voice telling them to get off the wagon. Remembered standing in the dust, watching her future drive away. No, she wouldn't go back to that. She'd die first. Grace slipped out of bed and padded down the stairs. The house was dark except for a lamp burning low in the kitchen. She found Sam sitting at the table, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at the wall. "Couldn't sleep neither?" he said without turning around. "No, sir." "Come, sit." Grace sat across from him. The lamp threw shadows across his face, making him look older than his 42 years. "I found a lawyer," Sam said. "Man named Harrison Cole. Supposed to be the best in the territory. He'll meet with us tomorrow." "You think he can help?" "I think he better." Sam took a sip of his whiskey. "I ain't a man who gives up, Grace. You should know that about me by now." "I know." "But I want you to understand something." He set the glass down and looked at her directly. "Whatever happens in that courtroom, whatever the judge decides, it don't change what you are to me. You're my daughter. Legal or not, paper or not, you're my daughter. Nothing's ever going to change that." Grace's throat tightened.
How can you say that? You've only known us 2 months.
Don't matter. Some things you know right away. Some things don't need time to prove themselves. Sam leaned forward. I knew Eleanor was going to be my wife 5 minutes after I met her. Knew this land was going to be my home the first time I laid eyes on it. And I knew you girls were meant to be here the second I saw you standing on that trail. That's crazy. Maybe, but it's true. He smiled slightly. You remind me of her, you know, Eleanor. She had that same fire in her, same stubborn streak, same way of looking at the world like she was daring it to try and break her. Did it? Break her? No, she broke it instead. Sam's smile faded. She got sick. Cancer, the doctors said. Nothing to be done. She fought for 6 months, longer than anyone expected. And right up until the end, she was still planning, still hoping, still believing something good would come from all that pain. And did it? I thought no. For 3 years, I thought she was wrong. Thought the pain was just pain, meaningless and cruel. He met Grace's eyes. Then I found you, and I started to think maybe she was right after all. Maybe sometimes you gotta go through the dark to find the light. Grace felt tears sliding down her face. She didn't wipe them away. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm so scared, Sam. What if the judge believes her? What if he thinks we're better off with our legal guardian? What if he don't care about what she did? Then we'll fight harder. We'll appeal. We'll find another way. What if there ain't another way? Sam reached across the table and took her hand. Then I'll make one. I promise you, Grace. On Eleanor's grave, I promise. I will not let that woman take you. They sat together in the lamplight until the sky started to lighten in the east. Sam made coffee. Grace made biscuits from the recipe Martha had taught her. By the time Hope and Charity came downstairs, breakfast was on the table, and the worst of the fear had been pushed back into the shadows. It would come back. Grace knew that. But for now, in this kitchen, with this man who'd chosen to be their father, she could almost believe they had a chance. The lawyer arrived that afternoon. Harrison Cole was a tall man in a black suit, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed spectacles. He shook Sam's hand, nodded politely to Martha, and sat down at the kitchen table with a stack of papers and a serious expression. Tell me everything, he said to Grace. From the beginning, every detail you can remember. So Grace told him about their mother dying, about their father remarrying, about 2 years of cold looks and thin meals and being made to feel like they were taking up space that wasn't rightfully theirs. About the morning Rebecca had told them to get off the wagon. About standing on that trail, watching their stepmother drive away. Harrison wrote it all down, asked questions, clarified details. His face gave nothing away, but Grace caught him exchanging looks with Sam several times. And you're certain she said you weren't her blood? Harrison asked. Yes, sir. Said she couldn't afford to feed mouths that wasn't her own. Said our pa was dead, and she didn't owe us nothing. Did anyone else hear her say this? No, sir. It was just us on the trail. Harrison nodded slowly. That's going to be a problem. Without witnesses, it's your word against hers. They're children, Sam said sharply. What reason would they have to lie? None, in my opinion. But the law requires proof. And proof is hard to come by when the only witnesses are the alleged victims. Harrison leaned back in his chair. However, we do have corroborating evidence. The state the girls were in when you found them. The doctor's examination. The fact that Mrs. Winters didn't report them missing for 6 weeks, and only then after learning about the adoption. That proves she's after money. It suggests it. Proving it is something else. Harrison gathered his papers. Here's what I need from you. Written statements from everyone who saw the girls when they arrived. Dr. Patterson's examination records. Any documentation of the girls' condition at that time. And most importantly, I need you to bring anyone who can testify to the girl's treatment before the abandonment." "There ain't nobody," Grace said quietly. "We didn't have friends. Stepmother kept us isolated, said we'd embarrass her in front of decent folk." Harrison's expression softened. "Then we'll work with what we have, which is considerable, believe it or not. 3 articulate, clearly well-treated children who can describe in vivid detail what was done to them. A respected rancher who found them by chance and has provided exemplary care. A documented medical record of neglect and abandonment. Is it enough?" Sam asked. "I don't know, but it's a fight worth having." Harrison stood and extended his hand. "I'll see you in court on November 15th, Mr. Brennan. In the meantime, prepare those statements and pray for a fair judge." The weeks leading up to the hearing passed in a strange blur of ordinary days and sleepless nights. Grace went through the motions, did her chores, studied her lessons, helped Martha in the kitchen. But underneath it all, a clock was ticking, counting down to the day that would decide everything. Hope stopped smiling, stopped talking much at all. She spent hours in the barn with the horses, brushing them until their coats shone, her face blank and far away. Only Charity seemed untouched by the fear. She still chased Patches around the yard, still laughed at old Walt's jokes, still crawled into Sam's lap after supper and demanded stories about cowboys and Indians. "She don't understand," Hope said one evening, watching Charity play with the cat. "She don't know what's coming." "Maybe that's a blessing," Grace replied. "Or maybe it's going to make it worse. When they come to take us. When she realizes this ain't home no more." "Stop it." Grace grabbed her sister's arm. "Stop talking like we already lost. Sam's fighting for us. The lawyer's fighting for us. We got a chance." "Do we?" "Yes, we do." Grace squeezed hard enough to leave marks. "And even if we didn't, I'd find a way to get us back here. I'd walk 1,000 miles. I'd crawl if I had to. I ain't never given up on this family, Hope. Not now. Not ever." Hope's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so tired, Grace. Tired of being scared. Tired of waiting for bad things to happen." "I know, me too." Grace pulled her sister into a hug. "But we're almost there. Just a few more weeks, and then, one way or another, it'll be decided." "What if it's decided wrong?" Grace didn't have an answer for that. The night before the hearing, Sam gathered them all in the parlor. Martha was there, and Harry, and Miguel, and old Walt. Even Patches had wandered in and was curled up at Charity's feet. "I want to say something," Sam began, "before tomorrow, before everything changes." He looked at each of them in turn. Martha, who'd kept his household running for 15 years. The ranch hands, who'd become family in their own right. And the 3 girls who'd stumbled into his life and turned it upside down. "Whatever happens in that courtroom," Sam said, "I want you to know that these past 3 months have been the best of my life. Since Eleanor died, I mean. You girls gave me a reason to get up in the morning, a reason to keep building, a reason to believe that good things still happen to people who try to do right." "Sam," Martha's voice was thick with tears. "Let me finish." He took a breath. "I'm going to fight for you tomorrow, harder than I've ever fought for anything. But if it don't go our way, if that judge decides blood matters more than love, I need you to know something." He knelt in front of the girls, taking Grace's hands in one of his, Hope's in the other. "You're mine. No matter what any piece of paper says, no matter where you end up or who you're living with. You're mine, and I'm yours, and nothing, not laws or judges or evil women, is ever going to change that." Charity threw herself at him, sobbing. Hope followed. Grace held back for just a moment, memorizing his face, the lines around his eyes, the gray at his temples, the way he looked at them like they were the most precious things in the world. Then she let go and fell into his arms with her sisters. "I love you," she whispered. The words felt strange in her mouth. She hadn't said them to anyone since her mother died. "I love you, Sam. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that."
I love you too, Grace.
His voice broke. "All of you, more than I got words to say." They stayed like that for a long time, holding on to each other in the lamplight, while the fire crackled and the wind howled outside, and tomorrow waited like a wolf at the door. The courthouse in Denver was bigger than anything Grace had ever seen. She walked between Sam and Martha, her sisters close behind, her heart hammering so hard she could barely breathe. Rebecca Winters was already inside. Grace spotted her the moment they entered, sitting at a table near the front, wearing black like she was in mourning, her face arranged in an expression of wounded motherhood. She looked up as they entered, and for one terrible moment, her eyes met Grace's. Cold, empty, calculating. Then the mask slipped back into place, and she was dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, the picture of a grieving stepmother, desperate to reclaim her lost children. "Don't look at her," Sam murmured. "Keep your eyes forward." Grace obeyed, but her hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists, hiding them in the folds of her dress. Harrison Cole was already at their table, papers spread before him, his face calm and focused. He nodded as they sat down. "Remember what we discussed," he said quietly. "Answer the questions clearly and honestly. Don't embellish. Don't get angry. Just tell the truth." "Will that be enough?" Hope whispered. "It has to be." The judge entered, an older man with white hair and sharp eyes, wearing black robes that made him look like a crow. Judge Henderson, they'd been told. Fair but strict. A man who followed the letter of the law. Grace wasn't sure if that was good or bad. "This hearing will come to order." Judge Henderson settled into his chair and shuffled through papers. "The matter before us is the custody of Grace, Hope, and Charity Wells. Mrs. Rebecca Winters has filed a claim as their legal stepmother. Mr. Samuel Brennan has filed a counter-petition for adoption. Both parties will have the opportunity to present their case." He looked up. "Mrs. Winters, you may begin." Rebecca's lawyer was a thin man with a pinched face and an oily voice. He stood and began speaking, painting a picture that made Grace's stomach turn. "My client, Mrs. Winters, has suffered tremendously. After the tragic death of her husband, she was left alone to care for 3 children who were not her own. Overwhelmed with grief and financial hardship, she made the difficult decision to seek help from family in Montana. She left the children in what she believed was a safe location while she rode ahead to arrange for their care." "That's a lie," Hope hissed. "Quiet," Sam warned. The lawyer continued. "When Mrs. Winters returned to collect the children, they were gone. She has spent months searching for them, only to discover they had been taken in by a stranger who now seeks to adopt them against their legal guardian's wishes." "She never came back," Grace whispered. "She never even looked for us." "You'll get your chance to speak," Harrison murmured. "Hold on." Rebecca took the stand. Her voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes glistening with tears that Grace knew were fake. "I never meant to leave them," Rebecca said. "I was going to come right back. But when I returned, they were gone. I've been searching ever since. They're all I have left of my husband. Please, Your Honor, I just want my children back." Grace's fingernails dug into her palms. The lies flowed so easily from that woman's mouth, so smooth and practiced, like she'd rehearsed them 100 times. "Mrs. Winters," Judge Henderson said, "can you explain why you didn't report the children missing until 6 weeks after the alleged disappearance?" Rebecca's composure flickered.
Just for a second. Then she recovered. "I was searching on my own, Your Honor. I didn't want to involve the authorities.
I was afraid they'd be taken away from me permanently. And yet you only filed a claim after learning that Mr. Brennan had petitioned to adopt them.
I didn't know where they were until then. As soon as I heard, I came forward.
Judge Henderson made a note. His expression gave nothing away. Rebecca's lawyer called a few more witnesses, people from Montana who claimed Rebecca had spoken about her missing stepchildren, a minister who testified to her good character. Each one added another brick to the wall of lies. Then it was their turn. Harrison stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Grace Wells to the stand. Grace's legs felt like water as she walked forward. She sat in the witness chair and looked out at the courtroom, at Rebecca's cold eyes, at Sam's worried face, at her sisters huddled together, holding hands.
Grace, Harrison said gently, can you tell the court what happened on August 15th of this year? Grace took a breath. Our stepmother told us to get off the wagon. We was about 10 miles from nowhere on a trail heading west. She said to wait by a big rock, and she'd come back for us.
Did she say anything else?
She said our pa was dead, and she couldn't afford to feed mouths that wasn't her own blood. She said we wasn't her problem no more.
A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Henderson's eyebrows rose. And did she come back for you?
No, sir. We waited for hours. Then we started walking. We walked until Charity collapsed from hunger and thirst. That's when Mr. Brennan found us.
What condition were you in when Mr. Brennan found you?
We hadn't eaten in over a day. We hadn't had water in nearly as long. Charity couldn't stand. Hope was barely conscious.
Grace's voice caught.
I was trying to figure out if I should leave them and run for help, or stay and die with them.
The courtroom had gone completely silent. Grace, Harrison continued, did your stepmother ever indicate that she intended to return for you?
No, sir. She drove that wagon away without looking back. Not once. I watched until she disappeared. She never even slowed down.
Objection! Rebecca's lawyer was on his feet. The witness is a child. She can't possibly know what was in Mrs. Winter's mind.
I can know what I saw, Grace shot back before anyone could stop her. I saw a woman who wanted us gone. I saw relief on her face when she drove away. I ain't a child who don't understand what's happening around her, sir. I've been taking care of my sister since our mama died. I know when someone wants us and when they don't.
That's enough, Grace, Judge Henderson said, but his voice wasn't unkind. Continue, Mr. Cole. Harrison nodded. Grace, in the 2 years you lived with Mrs. Winters, how would you describe her treatment of you and your sisters?
She fed us just enough to keep us alive, made us sleep in the cold part of the house, took us out of school because she said education was wasted on girls who just end up married or dead. She never touched us gentle, never said a kind word, never once made us feel like we belonged.
And how would you describe your treatment at Mr. Brennan's ranch?
Grace looked at Sam, at the man who'd stopped on a trail when he didn't have to, who'd fed them and clothed them and given them a home, who'd promised to fight for them and meant it. He treats us like we matter, she said softly, like we're worth something, like we're his daughters, not just mouths to feed. He teaches us and listens to us and makes us feel safe. Her voice broke. I ain't never felt safe before, not since my mama died. Sam gave that back to us.
Thank you, Grace. No further questions. Rebecca's lawyer approached. His eyes were cold.
Miss Wells, isn't it true that you were angry with your stepmother for remarrying your father? I was sad, not angry.
Isn't it true that you resented her presence in your home?
I didn't like how she treated us. That ain't the same as resenting her.
Isn't it possible that you misunderstood her intentions on the trail? That she really did intend to come back?
Grace met his eyes. No, sir, it ain't possible. I know what I saw. I know what she said, and I know we would have died on that trail if Mr. Brennan hadn't found us." "You seem very certain for a 12-year-old." "I am certain. Some things you don't forget. Some things get burned into your brain so deep they never go away." Grace's voice hardened. "That woman left us to die. I don't care what she says now or how many tears she cries. I know the truth, and so does God." The lawyer had no more questions. Hope took the stand next. Her voice shook, but she told her story clearly.
Then Charity, so small in the witness chair that she could barely see over the railing. She didn't understand all the questions, but she answered honestly. "Did your stepmother ever hug you?" Harrison asked. "No, sir." "Did she ever tell you she loved you?" "No, sir." "Did she ever say she was coming back for you on that trail?" Charity's face crumpled. "She said wait here. Then she drove away, and we waited and waited, and she never came back. I kept calling for her, but she didn't hear me. Or maybe she heard, but she didn't care." Several women in the gallery were crying. Even Judge Henderson looked moved. Sam took the stand last. He described finding the girls, the condition they were in, the decision to take them home. He described the past 3 months, the progress they'd made, the family they'd become. "Mr. Brennan," Harrison asked, "why do you want to adopt these children?" Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "Because they're mine. I know that don't make sense legally. I know I only met them 3 months ago. But some things you know in your bones, deeper than law or logic. These girls are meant to be with me. I can give them a home, an education, a future. I can give them the love they deserve. And what about Mrs. Winter's claim that they belong with her?" Sam's jaw tightened. "That woman threw these children away like they was nothing. She don't get to come back now and pretend she cares. Not after what she did. Not ever." Judge Henderson called a recess. Grace sat with her sisters in a small room off the main courtroom, waiting. Martha had brought food, but none of them could eat. The clock on the wall ticked away the minutes like drops of water torture. "What do you think will happen?" Hope whispered. "I don't know," Grace admitted. The judge looked sympathetic. When Charity was talking, I saw his face. He looked angry at Rebecca. "Looking angry ain't the same as ruling in our favor." The door opened. Sam came in, his face drawn but determined. "They're calling us back." Grace took her sister's hands. Together, they walked back into the courtroom. Judge Henderson was already seated. Rebecca sat at her table, her face pale, her lawyer whispering urgently in her ear. Something had changed. Grace could feel it in the air. "I've heard all the testimony," Judge Henderson began, "and I've considered the evidence carefully. This is not an easy decision. The law gives significant weight to biological and legal family connections. Mrs. Winters is, technically, the children's legal guardian." Grace's heart stopped. "However," the judge continued, "the law also recognizes that the welfare of the child must be the paramount concern. And in this case, the evidence is overwhelming that Mrs. Winters abandoned these children with the intent to permanently rid herself of their care." Rebecca made a strangled sound. "The testimony of the children was consistent and credible. The medical evidence of their condition, when found, corroborates their account. And the fact that Mrs. Winters made no attempt to locate them for 6 weeks, and only came forward after learning of the adoption petition, suggests that her current claim is motivated by financial gain rather than genuine concern." Judge Henderson looked directly at Rebecca. "Mrs. Winters, I find your testimony unconvincing and your actions reprehensible. You abandoned 3 children in the wilderness and left them to die. The only reason they're alive today is because a stranger happened to ride past and chose to help."
He turned to Sam. "Mr. Brennan, I find your petition credible and your care of these children exemplary. It is the judgment of this court that custody of Grace, Hope, and Charity Wells be permanently transferred to you. The adoption is approved." The courtroom erupted. Grace couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she'd just heard. Then Charity was screaming with joy, and Hope was crying, and Sam was pulling all three of them into his arms, his own tears falling freely. "We won!" Hope sobbed. "We won! We won! We won!" "You're mine now," Sam said, his voice breaking. "Legal and forever. Nobody can ever take you away." Grace looked over Sam's shoulder at Rebecca Winters. The woman sat frozen at her table, her face twisted with rage and disbelief. Their eyes met. Grace didn't gloat, didn't smirk. She just looked at the woman who'd thrown them away and felt nothing but pity. Pity for someone so empty inside that she could leave children to die and not feel a thing. Then she turned away and buried her face in Sam's shoulder. It was over. They were home. The ride back to the ranch felt like a dream. Grace sat between her sisters in the wagon, watching the Colorado landscape roll past, unable to stop smiling. Martha kept wiping her eyes and muttering about dust.
Sam whistled as he drove, a tune Grace didn't recognize, but loved anyway.
"We're really yours now?" Charity asked for the 100th time. "Really and truly." "And that mean lady can't never take us?" "Never, not ever. I got papers that say so, signed by a judge." "Papers are important," Charity said solemnly. "Almost as important as promises." "That's right, little one. Almost as important." They reached the ranch as the sun was setting. Harry and Miguel and old Walt were waiting on the porch, their faces anxious. When they saw Sam smile, they let out whoops that echoed across the valley. "You did it!" Harry grabbed Sam in a bear hug. "You actually did it!" "We did it," Sam corrected. "All of us, together." That night they had a celebration. Martha cooked everything in the kitchen. The ranch hands brought out a fiddle and a harmonica. They danced in the parlor, clumsy and laughing, while Patches watched from her perch on the windowsill. Grace danced with Sam, then with Harry, then with Hope and Charity in a circle that got faster and faster until they all collapsed in a giggling heap. "I ain't never been this happy," Charity announced. "Not ever in my whole life." "Me neither," Hope agreed. Grace didn't say anything. She just lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, letting the happiness wash over her like warm water. Later, after the ranch hands had gone to bed and Martha had retired to her room, Sam found Grace sitting on the porch, looking at the stars. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Don't want to. Afraid I'll wake up and find out this was all a dream." Sam sat down beside her. "It ain't a dream. It's real. Every bit of it." "I know. It's just hard to believe, after everything." Grace pulled her knees to her chest. "I spent so long expecting the worst, preparing for things to go wrong. It's strange to have something go right for once." "You'll get used to it." "Will I?" "Eventually. Give it time." Sam was quiet for a moment. "I want to tell you something, Grace. Something I ain't told no one else." "What?" "When Eleanor died, I wanted to die too. I thought about it. Riding out into the mountains and just not coming back. Letting the cold take me, or the wolves, or whatever found me first." Grace looked at him, shocked. "I didn't do it," Sam continued. "Partly because I'm too stubborn. Partly because Eleanor would have haunted me for eternity if I gave up that easy. But mostly because I kept thinking, maybe there was something left, some reason I was still here, some purpose I hadn't found yet." "And then you found us." "And then I found you." Sam's voice roughened. "Standing on that trail, holding your sister's hands, looking at me like I was either salvation or damnation, and you wasn't sure which. And I knew. Right then, right there. I knew why I was still alive." Grace felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "Sam." "You saved me, Grace. You and Hope and Charity."
"You think I rescued you, but the truth is, you rescued me right back." He put his arm around her shoulders. "We're family now, real family, and nothing's ever going to change that." Grace leaned against him, feeling his warmth, his strength, his steady heartbeat. "I love you," she whispered. "Pa." She felt him go still, felt the shudder that ran through him. "Say that again," he said, his voice breaking. "I love you, Pa." Sam pulled her into a fierce hug, his tears falling into her hair. "I love you too, daughter, more than words can say." They sat there for a long time, father and daughter, watching the stars wheel overhead. Inside the house, Hope and Charity slept peacefully, safe in the knowledge that they'd never be abandoned again. The darkness had passed. The light had come. And for the first time in years, Grace Wells, Grace Brennan, believed that tomorrow would be better than today. The first snow of winter came 2 weeks after the trial. Grace woke to find the world transformed, white and silent and achingly beautiful. She pressed her nose to the cold window glass and watched the flakes drift down like feathers from heaven. "It's snowing!" Charity barreled into the room, still in her nightgown. "Grace, Hope, wake up! It's snowing!" "We're awake," Hope groaned from beneath her quilt. "The whole territory's awake after that scream." "Come look! It's so pretty!" They crowded at the window together, 3 sisters watching the snowfall on their home. Their home. Grace still felt a thrill every time she thought those words. "Girls," Martha's voice carried up the stairs, "breakfast's getting cold." They scrambled to dress and ran downstairs. Sam was already at the table, coffee in hand, looking out at the white world beyond the kitchen window. "Gonna be a hard winter," he said. "Snow's coming early and heavy this year." "Is that bad?" Charity asked, climbing into her chair. "Means more work. Keeping the animals fed and warm. Making sure the pipes don't freeze. But we'll manage." Sam smiled at them. "We always do." After breakfast, the girls helped with morning chores. Grace fed the chickens, while Hope collected eggs. Charity attempted to build a snowman, but ended up mostly throwing snow at Patches, who was deeply offended by the whole situation. "Grace!" Harry called from the barn. "Got a minute?" She trudged through the snow to find him standing over a mare who was clearly in distress. "She's gonna foal early," Harry said. "Weather's got her stressed. Might need extra hands." "I'll help. What do you need me to do?" They worked together for hours, keeping the mare calm, preparing the stall, waiting for nature to take its course. When the foal finally came, slick and struggling, Grace felt tears prick her eyes. "It's a filly," Harry announced. "Healthy, too. Look at her trying to stand already." The foal wobbled to her feet, all legs and determination. She nuzzled against her mother, searching for milk, and something in Grace's chest expanded until it hurt. New life. New beginnings. Even in the coldest winter, life found a way. "You done good," Harry said, clapping her shoulder. "Got a natural touch with animals." "Thanks, Harry. You know, when Sam first brought you girls home, I wasn't sure it'd work out. Thought maybe he was taking on too much. Man already had enough grief to carry." "And now?" Harry smiled. "Now I think you're exactly what this place needed. What he needed. You brought the light back, Grace. Don't ever doubt that." Christmas came with all its traditions. Martha baked for days. Pies and cookies and the cake so tall,
Charity swore it touched the ceiling. Sam cut down a tree, and they decorated it together, stringing popcorn and hanging ribbons and placing a star at the very top. "We never had a real Christmas before," Hope confessed. "Not since Mama died. Stepmother said it was a waste of money."
"Well, you got real Christmases now," Sam said. "Every year, for as long as you want them." On Christmas morning, there were presents under the tree. Real presents, wrapped in paper and tied with bows. Books for Grace, who devoured them faster than anyone could buy them. Art supplies for Hope, who'd discovered a talent for drawing. A handmade doll for Charity, with button eyes and a blue dress just like Margaret, the one they'd lost. "I thought you might want a new friend," Martha said, as Charity hugged the doll tight. "I know she ain't the same as the one your mama made, but—" "She's perfect," Charity whispered. "I'm going to call her Eleanor, after Sam's wife, because she's watching over us too, even though we can't see her." Sam turned away, but not before Grace saw him wipe his eyes. That evening, they gathered around the fire while Sam read from a book of Christmas stories. The ranch hands had joined them, and the room was full of warmth and laughter, and the smell of pine and cinnamon. "This is the best Christmas ever," Charity declared. "I reckon it is," Sam agreed. "I reckon it truly is." Winter settled in hard and deep. The snow piled higher than the fences in some places. The temperature dropped so low that water froze in the bucket before you could carry it 10 feet. But inside the ranch house, there was warmth. There was family. There was love. Grace turned 13 in January. Martha baked a cake with real frosting, and everyone sang while Grace blew out the candles. "What'd you wish for?" Charity demanded. "Can't tell, otherwise it won't come true." "That's just superstition." "Maybe, but I ain't taking chances." The truth was, Grace hadn't wished for anything. She already had everything she'd ever wanted. A home, a family, people who loved her and would never leave. What more was there to wish for? Spring came slowly, reluctantly, as if winter didn't want to let go. But eventually, the snow melted and the grass turned green and the world woke up again. With spring came new arrivals. Sheriff Dunn rode up one April morning with a telegram in his hand and worry in his eyes. "Sam, we got a situation. Territorial Welfare Office is asking if you can take on more children." "More children?" "3 of them. Found in an abandoned mining camp up near Leadville. Parents died in a cave-in. Been living alone for 2 months, surviving on God knows what." Grace felt her heart squeeze. She knew what that was like. Living on nothing but fear and hope. Waiting for someone to find you. "How old?" Sam asked. 13, 9, and 6. 2 boys and a girl. They're in rough shape, Sam. Real rough. But the orphanage in Denver is full up, and the welfare office heard about what you did for the Wells girls. They're hoping—" "Bring them," Sam said without hesitation. "Sam," Martha's voice held a warning, "we're already stretched thin. 3 more mouths to feed, 3 more bodies to clothe." "We'll manage. We always do." Sam looked at Grace. "What do you think? You ready to be a big sister to more than just hope and charity?" Grace thought about standing on that trail, about watching the wagon drive away, about the moment when Sam had stopped and changed everything. "Yes," she said. "Bring them here." The Crawford children arrived 3 days later. Thomas was 13, tall and thin and angry. He walked into the kitchen like he was expecting a fight, his fists clenched, his eyes hard. Behind him came Abigail, 9 years old, clutching a worn book to her chest like a shield. And hiding behind her was Caleb, 6, with blonde curls and eyes that had seen too much. "This is your home now," Sam said, "for as long as you want it." Thomas snorted. "That's what the last people said, right before they sent us to the work farm." "I ain't the last people," Sam met the boy's eyes steadily. And this ain't a work farm. This is a home. You'll do chores because everyone does chores. You'll go to school because everyone needs learning. And you'll be treated with respect because that's what you deserve. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. Not yet. Sam didn't look away. Trust is earned, not given. So watch me. Test me. See if my actions match my words. And when you're ready to believe, I'll be here. Thomas stared at him for a long moment. Then something in his shoulders relaxed, just slightly. Fine, he said. We'll try it. But if you're lying, I ain't lying. You'll see. It wasn't easy. Thomas fought everything. Rules, routines, any attempt at kindness. He picked fights with Harry, argued with Martha, and spent most of his time glaring at everyone like they'd personally offended him. He's testing us, Grace told Sam one evening, pushing to see if we'll push back, if we'll give up on him like everyone else did. How do you know? Because that's what I did. When I first got here, I was waiting for you to change your mind, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Grace looked at where Thomas sat alone on the porch, staring at nothing. He's scared, Sam. He's been responsible for his siblings since his parents died. He don't know how to stop fighting. So what do? We don't give up. We don't push back. We just keep being steady until he believes it's real. Sam nodded slowly. When'd you get so wise? I had a good teacher. Abigail was easier. She loved books, loved learning, loved the quiet peace of the ranch. She and Hope became instant friends, spending hours together drawing and reading and whispering secrets. Caleb attached himself to Charity like a shadow. The two youngest found comfort in each other, in the shared experience of being small in a world that had treated them harshly. He don't talk much, Charity reported, but he laughs at my jokes, and he likes Patches almost as much as I do. Slowly, day by day, the new family began to take shape. Thomas started helping with the heavy chores without being asked. Abigail began teaching the younger children their letters. Caleb said his first full sentence at the dinner table. "Please pass the potatoes, Pa." Everyone froze. Caleb's face went red. "I didn't mean, I know you ain't really I just—" "I'd be honored," Sam said quietly, "if you wanted to call me Pa. All of you. But only if you want to. There's no pressure." Caleb's eyes filled with tears. "I want to. I ain't had a pa in so long. I forgot what it felt like." "You got one now, for as long as you need one." That night, Grace found Thomas sitting on the porch again. But this time, he didn't look angry. He looked lost. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. "Free country." She sat beside him, close enough to talk, far enough to give him space. "It's strange, ain't it?" she said. "Learning to trust again? Learning to believe good things can last?" "How do you know they can?" "I don't, not for sure." Grace looked up at the stars. "But I know that worrying about tomorrow ruins today. And I know that Sam's kept every promise he's made. And I know that right now, in this moment, we're safe and fed and loved." "What if it ends?" "Then we'll deal with it, together." She turned to look at him. "That's what family does, Thomas. They face things together, even the hard things, especially the hard things." Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Then he let out a breath that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside him. "My pa used to say that, before he died. Said family wasn't about blood, it was about choice. About showing up every day and choosing each other." "He sounds like a smart man." "He was. The smartest man I ever knew." Thomas's voice cracked. "I miss him so much, and Ma, and the life we used to have." "I know. I miss my mama, too. And my first pa. But missing them don't mean we can't love the new people in our lives. Grace touched his arm gently. There's room in your heart for both, Thomas. The ones you lost and the ones you found. For the first time since he'd arrived, Thomas didn't pull away. You really believe that? I do, because I'm living it. Grace stood. Come inside. Martha's making hot chocolate. And Caleb's been asking where you are. Thomas hesitated. Then he got up and followed her into the house. The years passed like seasons changing. Grace watched her family grow and evolve. Watched Thomas lose his anger and find purpose, becoming Sam's right hand on the ranch. Watched Hope discover a gift for healing, nursing sick animals back to health with patience and skill. Watched Charity grow into a young woman who never lost her joy, who still talked to Patches and believed in miracles. Watched the Crawford children become Brennans in every way that mattered. More children came. A pair of brothers found hiding in a freight car, starving and scared. A girl whose father had sold her to a mining camp for whiskey money. A boy so small and silent they weren't sure he could speak at all, until the day he stood up at the dinner table and announced that he wanted to be a preacher when he grew up. 9 children in all, 5 girls and 4 boys. 9 broken pieces that somehow fit together into something whole. How do you do it? Sheriff Dunn asked Sam one day. Keep taking them in. Keep finding room. Room ain't about space, Sam said. It's about heart. And the heart's got more room than we know. Grace turned 18 the year the railroad came through. She stood on the porch of the ranch house, bigger now, with additions built for all the children, and watched the train whistle in the distance. You could leave, Sam said, coming to stand beside her. Go see the world. Make your own way. I could. You've got the smarts for it. Could go to college back east, become a teacher or a doctor, or whatever you set your mind to. I could do that too. Sam was quiet for a moment. But you're not going to, are you? Grace turned to look at him, at the man who'd stopped on a trail 6 years ago and changed everything. His hair was grayer now, his face more lined, but his eyes were the same, steady and kind and full of love. I'm staying, she said. This is where I belong. These are my people. This is my home. You sure? I ain't never been more sure of anything, Grace smiled. Besides, someone's got to help you with all these children. You ain't getting any younger. Sam laughed, really laughed, the way he did when Eleanor was alive. No, I reckon I ain't. That evening the whole family gathered for dinner. All 9 children, plus Martha and the ranch hands who'd become family too. The table was crowded and loud and chaotic, everyone talking over each other, passing food, telling stories. Grace looked around at the faces she loved. At Thomas, now 20, engaged to a school teacher from town. At Hope, 17, planning to study medicine. At Charity, 14, still joyful, still believing the best of everyone. At the Crawford children and all the others who'd come after, each one finding their place, each one belonging. Grace, Charity tugged her sleeve. You're crying. Am I? Grace touched her face, surprised to find tears. I guess I am. Are you sad? No, sweetheart. I ain't sad at all. Grace pulled her sister into a hug. I'm just grateful. So grateful I don't know how to hold it all inside. After dinner, Sam called for quiet. I want to say something, he announced. Something I should have said a long time ago. The room fell silent. When Eleanor died, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd never feel anything again except pain and emptiness. Sam's voice was rough, but steady. Then I found 3 little girls standing on a trail in the middle of nowhere, holding hands like it was the only thing keeping them alive.
and everything changed. He looked at Grace, at Hope, at Charity, at all the children who'd come after. "You saved me," he said simply. "Every single one of you. You gave me a reason to keep going, a reason to build something bigger than myself, a reason to believe that love doesn't run out. It multiplies." Charity was crying openly. Hope had her face buried in Thomas's shoulder. Grace stood frozen, unable to speak. "I know I ain't your blood father," Sam continued. "I know there are people you lost that I can never replace. But I want you to know that you're my children, all of you, in every way that matters. And I am proud, so proud, of who you've become." "We love you too, Pa," Thomas said, his voice breaking. "More than words can say." "Then let's not say words. Let's just be together. That's all that matters, being together."
They gathered around him, all 9 children and Martha and the ranch hands who were family too. A mass of arms and tears and love so thick you could feel it in the air. Grace held on tight and let herself feel it all. The gratitude, the joy, the fierce, unshakable knowledge that she was exactly where she belonged. Outside, the Colorado sky stretched vast and star-filled over Brennan Creek Ranch. The same sky that had witnessed 9 children abandoned in different ways, in different places, at different times. The same sky that had watched one man stop and stop again and keep stopping until his home was full. The wind carried the sound of laughter through the valley. The creek murmured its ancient song. And in the big house with the wide porch, a family that had built itself from broken pieces sat together in the light. They'd been thrown away, every single one of them, cast aside like things that didn't matter, like problems too heavy to carry. But they'd found each other, found a man with room in his heart, found a home that grew with every child who needed one. And together they'd proven something that mattered more than blood or law or any piece of paper a judge could sign. They'd proven that family wasn't about where you came from. It was about who chose to stay. Grace Wells Brennan looked around at the people she loved and knew with absolute certainty that she would never be abandoned again. Not because the world had become kinder, but because she'd found her people, and her people didn't leave.